Well, I just want to apologize first and foremost for not giving a heads up or a update on how my trip to Orcors was. It was phenomenal. Would love to go back to Eastman as and hopefully this pandemic will clear up um, come time for Bloody Downs. So, with that in mind, I came up, or actually, I reached out to some of my viewers on Facebook, and one of them suggested that I kind of delve into the history of LARP. So that's what I did. I did a little bit of research. I mean, there's still more to come, but today I'm just gonna be going over like when it was first cited in the U.S. and from there other groups. So and yes, I do have notes. I did my research. So with due to all this, you may see some more videos from me. Either be the history of live action role playing or just me rambling. So let's kick into this. So there's, as of right now, I have 3 parts, and we're going to start with the first one. So the beginning of LARP in the U.S. So if I'm not making eye contact with the camera, I'm terribly sorry. But the earliest sign of live action role playing in the United States was in the 1920s. There were groups throughout the nation called Model League of Nations. So it was pretty much from what I read, because I just wrote down stuff that I thought would be important, but within that, it was a lot of improvisation or improv, and it was more so acting rather than like fighting and this, that, and the other. The role playing was for psychotherapeutic purposes. This is psychotherapeutic means the treatment of mental disorder by the physiological rather than medical means. So those that had, I guess, issues with coping with the real world, this would kind of help them interact with other people, most likely. But it was more commonly called psychodrama. Also during that time, there was proof of like assassination style LARP played up in New York City, New York. I don't know what they used or how they dressed, but I know before many of the common day LARPs nowadays, it was like anywhere was just medieval reenactment, battle strategies, this, that, and the other. And then 40 years after that, a group of people in Berkeley, California began a fantasy style role play. So this part, if you are familiar with what I'm about to bring up, I have no problem with you popping in the comments with any information that I may not have used, but I'm just writing down, or I just wrote down what I found on Wikipedia, and wrote it down, not word for word, but try to put it in my own words. That way it's not plagiarism. But anyway, 40 years after that, in Berkeley, on May 1st, 1966, I think some of you know where I might be going with this, the well-known community of Society of Creative Acronym, SCA, was born. Within this community, they focus more along the lines of historical accuracy rather than fighting imaginary dragons or orc forces or evil forces or magical forces or whatnot. The attire is similar to clothing around or before the 17th century. Not only is there like medieval style combat, but there's also like horse activities, feasts, dance, and medieval arts and sciences. Again, if I'm forgetting anything, please put it in the comments. Like any current LARP, the SCA wrote a rule book for their participants to follow. With most groups nowadays, there kind of has to be rules in place. I know with our community, we have within our rulebook, all our weapons have a specific. Yeah. Anyway. A handbook for the current Middle Ages helped those create their own SCA chapters. By 1969, the SCA established 3 kingdoms: West Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and East Kingdom. All current kingdoms can trace back to one of the 3 original kingdoms. As of 2017, there are 30,000 participants, well, paying members, excuse me, and most likely over 60,000 active members. And even to this day, SCA is still growing. And I mean, I was, before I got into LARP, I was actually a part of something similar to SCA, but I just can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But we had a rank structure and this, that, and the other. Now, with the SCA, what's different from their weapons than typical foam LARP weapons? Their weapons are actually made out of rattan, which is a type of, correct me if I'm wrong, solid bamboo? I'm not entirely sure. But I thought, mind you, I thought I had spelled it right. But come to find out that there's 2 T's in rattan. Anyway, so with their weapons, uh, for instance, like if they were to use like a one-handed sword, for example, I got an avalanche of foam. So how they would have it is they would have their handle. I can't remember what kind of the actual specific name for the guard, but it's pretty much like a bowl, like that covers the hand, and from there up was the blade. How they do their blades, I've actually watched several tutorials on how they do their swords. Is they cut the rattan down to the desired length that they need. How they do the handles is they use some sort of blade or power tool. But the one that really caught my eye that I specifically watch so I don't goof anything up on how the SCA makes their weapons is he had a draw blade. I think that's what it was called. And he marked out where the handle was going to be and pretty much drew it to where one side was flat, turned it over, and then used the draw blade, and so pretty much creating a oblong handle. And they would then put the bowl on. I didn't see specifically how they put it on, but I'm guessing they either bolted it or taped it. Again, if I have goofed anything up, please leave any comments below. So with the blade, what they did was they covered it in tape. I believe it was duct tape. And how they did the stab tip was 3 layers of blue camp pad. And so how they did it was they would cut one piece to the specific diameter of the rattan, tape it down, grab the other foam disc, put it down, tape it down, and just had 3 layers of blue camp pad for the stab tip. And the gentleman that I watched, how he did the stab tip was with strapping tape, which is this lovely stuff. I love using this because, especially for putting it on blades. And from there, I believe how they do their stab tips, I believe they put red tape at the top to indicate, hey, this weapon has a stab tip. Be careful. But again, I could be wrong. But when it came to fighting, they have to have like heavy sets of armor. And apparently, I did not know this until back in January, that there's actually a SEA group here in Wilmington. I thought it was pretty cool. And what was funny is the day that I had scheduled for the very first meetup for the year, especially for the opening for new members to join. There was actually a SCA group armoring up and fighting, and what I thought was pretty cool was just how the armor looked. It was exquisitely made, even though there were like ridiculous amounts of dents. But I mean, with their weapons, I can see why. um, but with fighting, they have to have helms because apparently, unlike typical LARPs, SCA headshots are allowed. I don't know how their point system works. Or not point system, but I don't know if it's the same concept as Dagger here, where you lose an arm, you have to put it behind you, lose your leg, drop it, so on and so forth. But yeah, their armor's pretty heavy. The group that I started out with before any of this, you'd start out, regardless of age, is you'd start out with kendo swords or shinai, move up. From there, you'd start fighting with foil, rapiers, and then I believe it was light metal, and then full metal, which is like actual full suits of armor. But it's been so long since then. But that's today's lesson for how LARP came to be. But before I end this video, I just want to say thank you to David Pugh that suggested doing this this series of how LARP came to be and how the medieval feeling incorporated into it. But that's all I got for today. Again, I apologize for not updating you all on Orc Wars, but I had a blast. It was my very first camp out event, and I'd love to go back to Eastwind. Loved it. So I will talk to you guys next time. Whereas part 2, that's going to be a real treat. So you all have a good day. Be safe. Wash your hands. Hydrate. Yeah. So I will see you guys in part 2. And again, have a good day.